Hi folks, this is Kelani. I'm bringing you a weaponsmithing guide. Now, this is just going to be a brief overview of the typical scenario you'll find yourself in while leveling weaponsmithing. Now, I found this to be one of the easier ones until you get right into the later stages, as it does take quite a lot of materials for you to gain the last few level ups. But aside from that, it's a pretty standard path which you will take, in that you will smelt your ores, you will refine your woods, and then you will start to discover using the dowels and inscriptions with the components for weapons that you will make. So while leveling, what you generally want to do is, in your refinement, the highest ingot or dowel or plank you can make, you want to spam that until there's no more experience to be gained from that. So while you're making greenwood planks right at the start, you want to make greenwood planks and bronze ingots until they go grey. Now this is so you don't miss out on experience and you get the most of what materials you have got. For example, if you started using inscriptions while you could still gain a decent amount of experience from smelting or refining, you'd actually lose the experience that you would then later get from that inscription, because you're getting the inscription in a place where you could have got bronze, so it's wasting experience essentially, because you could have got that experience anyway, and generally you go over that experience and you still have refinement to do while they're grey. So it's just getting the most out of the materials which you're using. This goes for the same all the way up. You want to make as many as you can. The only exceptions to these are dark steel. Now this is because it uses platinum ore and primordium. If you have any other trade skills which use platinum, they don't smelt to dark steel necessarily. I did dueling at the same time, and platinum for jeweler smelts to platinum. So if you're trying to balance them, you want to make sure that you've got A, enough to get the experience you want from the refining, and B, you're not wasting, because if you have too many dark steel ingots, the best chance you're going to get anything back from them is throwing them up on the Black Lion trading post. So to take you through it, what you'll generally do is use your metals and your woods. You'll refine them until they get to the point where you don't get experience for that. Now be careful if you go then forward with planks into dowels, because you actually use planks on some of your weapon components, and these are the hafts. Large hafts for your two-handed weapons and your small hafts for your one-handed weapons. So just be careful you don't overuse your planks. You're going to pretty much waste a lot of dowels, depending on how many you create for experience. Now this is because each inscription requires one dowel, but you're actually going to have a lot more dowels than you can use. I know I've got quite a few on the Black Lion trading post right now, and I ended up vendoring quite a lot because they were just taking up bag space. So be wary of that. Note that weaponsmithing also uses all of the fine crafting materials, so if we have a look at those, that is all of these. As you can see, I am currently out of stock, as they're all on the trading post. You've got to make money while it's available, right? But these ones, you'll have a rating on them, and this is the level at which you can start using them. You can probably see this better on the ore. You can start using iron ore at 75 weaponsmithing. Then you go down to platinum, mithril. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. But you can see the very clear progression of where you're going. What you want to make sure you're doing is making orange coloured recipes. Now this is even more important when you're discovering, because if you discover a new item with an inscription which is quite outdated, you'll get bugger all experience for it. You just won't get a decent amount of experience, and it's a wasted components mainly, because your components are going to be the same no matter what. It's the inscription which dictates how much experience you're going to get. So I'll just quickly show you what happens in the discovery. Now we've got the two components of the greatsword, the blade and the hilt, and an inscription. This looks like something craft the item to save the recipe. So you need to kind of do this to get yourself a couple recipes. Now, depending on what fine crafting material you're using, it will have different stats, and it will actually tell you on the inscription. So you can see this inscription does condition damage, power and vitality. So go ahead and craft that, and you can see that it gives us a broadsword. Now, essentially, you're going to make what you're making. So if you have your greatsword hilt and blade, you obviously can't put that together with a greatsword hilt or sword blade, because they just don't go together. If you have an inscription which is condition damage and power, your greatsword will have condition damage and power. You know, it's not going to suddenly randomly get a stat out of nowhere. So while leveling, remember that an orange inscription will always give you the most experience. Remember to refine until you can't get any more experience from refining, especially if you have leftover materials. And remember, discoveries always give you more experience than recreating something you've already discovered. Note that some of these can be bought from your weaponsmith, but generally they use a lot more materials. Now, to get to the higher ends, you will definitely need to buy some of these, and you can see they require 15 of your fine crafting material instead of 3 or 8. As you progress, what you will see is that some of the fine crafting materials start to tier. So you will be able to use the venom sacs, claws and bones before the rest, I believe. If that's wrong, I apologise. I don't have these, so I can't specifically see when they become available. So as you can see, that one's at 75. 75. I believe they start changing later on. 100. So the vials of thin blood, you will need to get up from 75 to 100 before you can start using them. But the beauty of that is, when the inscriptions which use the other materials which you start using at 75 start to go a little grey, they start to lose their experience gain, the vial of blood will then kick in and you'll be able to take that further. This obviously means that you need to look at what you're using and when you're using it. The other thing of note is, when you get to a certain point in your current metal, the fine crafting material requirements will change. It's when you go, say, a tier higher. You will also start to use your metal on your dowels. So in a progression line, we would start using bronze ingots and green dowels. If we just find these for visual reference. Yeah, here we go. And greenwood dowels and bronze ingot, and then you would move up and actually start using your bronze on your dowels, so you would start making bronze plated dowels. Now this is also a reason why you do not want to overextend spending on your planks, because you do not make the plated dowels from your dowels, which is kind of frustrating the first time you come across this. So you actually need to make the dowel afresh. Now, what will also happen, as I say, is that you will need more fine crafting materials. You will need 8 instead of 3. All of these become available at the same time, I believe, and it could be tiered a little later. So you'll get access to, say, 3 of the fine crafting materials at 8, and then you'll get access to the other at 8 later on in your progression. But you essentially repeat the same process. You go wood to plank to dowel, metal refined, then you go to metal plated dowel, and then you start over at the next tier of materials. So you would then go to softwood planks and dowels, iron ingots, and then to iron plated dowels. With weaponsmithing, you actually keep using iron. you then craft it to steel. So you don't actually use silver or gold. You do not use the precious metals. You just use iron, and then you go straight into platinum with dark steel. And as you can see, it goes all the way up: dark steel plated dowels, mithril planks, dowels, mithril plated dowels, and it goes all the way up until you get to the last items, which are ancient wood and orichalcum. I hope I said that right. It's really straightforward. It really is. You just need to make sure that your variance in discoveries is enough so that you're getting the most experience out of your inscriptions, and you're not overspending on your materials to the point where you start to waste them. Obviously, if you make 20 greatsword hilts and only manage to make 5 greatsword blades, and actually only use 3 greatsword combinations discoveries, then you just wasted a lot of your metal. So the one thing that I would encourage you to do while weaponsmithing is to plan ahead. Look at what you are making, what you plan to make, and predict from previous experience. So when you get up quite a little bit, you will be able to predict this quite nicely, but predict how much experience you're going to get for these combinations of weapons. Obviously, if you're making a white inscription with a random weapon, you're going to get naff all experience. So make sure you're using your head, really. Use that noggin. Apart from that, I can't really suggest anything else. I mean, if you're not using your precious metals yet, you could sell them and then try buy whatever you require. If you require anything else, I mean, I don't know, you may be chock-a-block with your copper ore, and your iron ore, and your platinum ore, and your mithril ore. So you may be able to level this really easily. But if you're not, the trading post is there, and I know iron ore at the moment is selling for pittance. They are on for 4 copper each, so if you need some iron, now's your chance. It's only going to get higher, because that's the lowest it can ever go. If you have any specific questions, please do ask them in the comments below. I'll try and help you out as much as possible. I'm trying to find out essentially where we're going with weaponsmithing. I know that we can create a few amazing weapons, but everyone's keeping the recipes a little hush-hush, and I'm not entirely sure if the Mystic Forge is the culprit for that. I know quite a few of the higher tier, and to make any legendaries, you're going to use the Mystic Forge. So I will bring you back with an advanced weaponsmithing video guide-y thing eventually, when I start to find out all these little secrets that people are trying to keep from me. They're little secret mongers. But I will happily share these with you. So please, if you are struggling with anything, please do ask in the comments below. I'll try respond as quickly as possible to try and give you a hand. If you are on... You can add server-wide, can't you? You can add server-wide. There is my contact, KelaniScar.2950. If I haven't replied in however long you think is appropriate, then you can just add me and throw me a whisper and, yo, dude, what's up with the weaponsmithing? And I'll try help you out as much as I can. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was informative enough without an entirely appropriate visual reference, but never mind. Have fun with it. Weaponsmithing I had a lot of fun with, so if you do have fun with it, congratulations. If you don't, ditch it and go for jeweler. That's fun as well. I'll bring you some more guides on professions as I get them. I do have a jeweler at 400 as well, so I'll bring you that one next, and then we'll move on to armorsmith, I believe. So have fun with it, and I'll see you next time. So this is the second event, and you have to kill 8 risen rot mouths. Now, depending on what you want to do, you can kill the monsters and then the rot mouths, or you can just focus down the rot mouths. For speed's sake, I guess I'm just going